This is undoubtedly the most classic American horror film that has left an indelible impression on countless movie fans. It's called Silent Hill, and we've talked about the first part before. Today, we bring you a plot synopsis of the second part. A girl is constantly running, with a group of mysterious figures in black cloaks chasing after her. Heather runs frantically into an amusement park, where everything is eerie and strange. Bunny dolls with blood on the corners of their mouths can be seen everywhere, and the goldfish in the fish tank is slowly sinking, and soon the goldfish sank to the bottom of the tank and did not move. Heather is terrified as she looks at the rabbit nearby. And then she turns and runs. She eventually arrives at a carousel, where she discovers a strange creature with a triangular head controlling it. Just as Heather was shocked, Heather suddenly realized that some of these carousels were actually dressed up by real people. They were seen hissing in pain, like a herd of lambs to the slaughter, and Heather was so horrified by the sight that she backed away. Suddenly, a woman appears in front of Heather, her arms slowly rising as flames burst out around her. In an instant, the people around her are burned to a grayish-white ash. The woman tells Heather not to go to a place called Silent Hill. As soon as she finishes speaking, Heather's whole body is engulfed in flames. Fortunately, it's just a nightmare. At this point, Heather's father, Christopher, hears the commotion and rushes in to comfort his daughter, but as soon as the words leave her mouth, Heather jolts out of her dream, which turns out to be a dream within a dream. The next morning, Heather goes to a new school to enroll. After Heather leaves, Christopher takes out a family photo and places it on the dresser. Immediately afterward, a memory came flooding back. His wife, who had been missing for several years, suddenly appeared behind him. Rose tells her husband that she and Sharon are both trapped in Silent Hill, and now a group of people are frantically hunting them. She found a mutilated seal with which she could send her daughter out. After saying that, Rose disappeared. Christopher quickly turns to look, only to see Heather lying safely on the couch. But at this moment, Heather has already forgotten all her memories about Silent Hill. On the other side, as Heather walks to school, she sees a homeless man lying on the ground, just as Heather is about to approach and help him. She is frightened and backs away, but when Heather looks again, the old man has returned to his original state. After class, the bustling corridors suddenly became empty, with only Heather's figure. As the lights began to flicker, Heather found herself in a place full of ruins. Suddenly, a bloodied monster slowly approached her. Seeing this, Heather was so shocked that she kept backing up and suddenly bumped into a male classmate. The boy's name is Vincent, and like Heather, today is his first day at his new school. On the way home, Heather sees a strange man in front of the school, and the other man seems to be here early, waiting for her to come out. Suspecting that she was being followed, Heather called her father Christoph and they agreed to meet at a mall. However, as Christoph was about to leave his house, the lock on his door began to shake violently. He decided to leave through the back door, but as soon as he opened it, at the mall, Heather anxiously waited for her father to arrive, but suddenly her perception became blurry. Out of nowhere, Heather saw the food in the customer's mouth become bloody. Heather freaks out and immediately runs away, but the crowds on the road are getting incredibly scary. With no other options, Heather had to hide in a storage room, but she didn't expect to encounter the mysterious man who had been following her. The man explained that he was a private detective hired by an evil organization to find Heather and bring her to Silent Hill. After observing her for some time, the man realized Heather was not a bad person and wanted to warn her to flee early. However, just as he finished speaking, a blade monster suddenly appeared behind him, slicing off his fingers. They hurriedly took the elevator, but the blade monster didn't give up. It cut off the frame above the elevator, and they were about to die when the monster suddenly disappeared. On their way home, a frightened Heather met her male classmate Vincent, who insisted on escorting her home. At her doorstep, Heather signaled for Vincent to stop, but when she pushed open the door, she found several bloody words on the wall: "Go to Silent Hill." Frantically searching for her father's whereabouts, Heather searched every corner of the room but found no sign of him. Suddenly, the door began to shake violently. Vincent rushed over when he heard the commotion and was shocked to see the words on the wall. They decided to go to Silent Hill together. Before leaving, Heather finds a worn seal and a letter in her father's box. The pattern on the mutilated seal is the same as the pattern left on the wall, so there must be a connection between the two. On the way to Silent Hill, Heather opens a letter left by her father.
My dearest Sharon, if you're reading this, then something has happened to me. And whatever you do, don't go to Silent Hill.
In the letter, Christoph tells Heather what he knows, which is the missing part of Heather's mind, the memory of Silent Hill. On the way, they came to the hotel to rest. However, When Heather woke up the next morning, she found that Vincent had stayed up all night with a heavy heart. He held the seal in his hand. Vincent told Heather to listen to her father's words and never go to Silent Hill. But Heather, desperate to save her father's life, refused to listen. Vincent had no choice but to reveal his true identity.
Because I am a child of the Order. I was chosen to come into this world to make sure you return. I was born and raised in Silent Hill.
The Order are trapped in Silent Hill. The notebook said so.
It requires sacrifice and
No, that's not possible.
suffering.
Heather listens to Vincent and still insists on going to Silent Hill to save her father. Seeing Heather's insistence, Vincent had to tell her that in order to successfully free her father, she still needed to find the other half of the broken seal, and that half was with his grandfather. When they were arguing, darkness suddenly fell, and the walls began to rot rapidly, becoming bloody and flesh-like. Just then, the blade monster reappeared and knocked them both unconscious. When Heather woke up again, the room had returned to normal, and Vincent was nowhere to be seen. Heather opened the door and saw thick fog and ashes floating in the air. She walked forward alone, and a body tied to a pillar appeared not far away. Just as Heather is confused, a woman's voice rings in her ears.
They will use you.
I know who you are.
We will all suffer now.
You're her mother, Alessa's mother.
The woman tells Heather about Heather's life, but as soon as the words are out of her mouth, the air raid siren suddenly goes off and darkness falls once again. Heather took refuge in a room and found a warehouse full of human models. She cautiously approached one of them, was surprised to find that it was breathing, but the next second, she found a woman wrapped in plastic, begging for help. After rescuing the woman, the two ran together. At that moment, a monster behind them, made up of countless human heads, jumped down from the roof and proceeded to remove the heads of the mannequins and mount them on their own bodies. Just as the two were about to reach the exit, they found that the door had been locked. With no other options, they had to escape through the ventilation duct. But as soon as they crawled in, the monster dragged the woman away. Afterward, Heather is alone and arrives at a place that looks like a prison and finds an old man bound in chains all over his body. Upon inquiry, she learned that the old man was Vincent's grandfather.
Come closer so I can touch you.
I am looking for my father.
Heather asked about the seal, but the old man said he was blind and couldn't see what Heather was holding. Then the old man asked Heather to give him the seal, and the old man quickly put it into his body. Suddenly, the old man's originally cloudy eyes became clear.
You're a demon! I see the truth of you.
Heather is being carried by a monster, and Heather sees two seals joined together in the monster's body. Heather quickly grabs them, causing the monster to turn to ash. Later, while passing through a hallway, countless hands suddenly reached out from both sides, begging for help. Just then, the triangular-headed monster slowly walked out dragging a 20-meter-long large knife, only to see its hands rise and fall. These hands were cut off alive in a matter of moments. That's when Heather, who was hiding in a corner, saw Vincent being pushed into a room by two men wearing masks on their heads, only to see a group of nurses with sharp blades standing inside. They do not have eyes, standing still and motionless. As soon as they heard a sound, they would rush over and slash, and the two church servants were hacked to death alive in this way. With the previous experience in mind, Heather cautiously approached Vincent and quickly helped him get rid of the restraints. Despite the thrilling process, the outcome was fortunate. The two managed to escape and make it to an amusement park, a place that appears in Heather's dreams. Just then, a group of cultists followed them, and in a moment of crisis, Vincent decided to lure them away. Heather then hurried towards the carousel, and the scene from the beginning of the movie happened again. With the flames roaring, the figure of Dark Alessa appeared.
Daughter, sister, you're the part of me that could be free of this pain, but
They say you are a demon.
everyone has a different nightmare in Silent Hill.
How can you?
You are not one.
Dark Alessa was burned to ashes by the fire, and Heather then went to the nearby church. Here, Heather finally saw her father Christoph and Vincent, who had been captured. The evil leader has been waiting for a long time. The reason why she took Christoph, the purpose is to make Heather walk into Silent Hill by herself, using Heather to defeat Alessa. Now that Alessa is dead, they think of using Heather's body to summon the gods.
I want to see the truth of what you are.
Just as the knife monster was about to kill Heather, the Pyramid Head monster arrived just in time to block the fatal blow. They then engaged in a fierce battle, and although the knife monster was agile and nimble, it managed to strike the Pyramid Head monster several times. However, the Pyramid Head monster was tough and sturdy, and ultimately, the knife monster was decapitated by a single blow. After the danger was averted, Heather, along with Kristoff and Vincent, prepared to leave Silent Hill. However, halfway through, Kristoff stopped in his tracks and decided to stay in Silent Hill to continue searching for his wife Rose's whereabouts. After explaining everything, he turned and walked into the thick fog. Heather and Vincent then left Silent Hill on a truck. Just moments later, several police cars headed towards Silent Hill, indicating that the story was far from over.